produced goods, that we're not yet as good as we should be in this area. Secondly, it was felt that we must use science, technology, and innovation capabilities in order to enhance service delivery within the public sector. So, for example, better use of technology for education, better use of information management systems to reduce inefficiencies in the health sector. So much more take-up in terms of improvement of public service delivery. Looking at research into water to improve quality of water, and indeed renewed sources of water, renewable energy resources, and so on. So much more government interest in the opportunities offered by science, technology, and innovation. It was also felt we need to have South African people understanding science and technology much more, and thus public engagement on STI should be significantly intensified, the conference said. It was also very strongly expressed that grassroots and social innovation should be encouraged in order to develop innovative products, services, and technologies. It was felt that the African National Congress should ensure that professions in science and technologies become careers of choice, and that public educational institutions should be resourced to advance this ideal. So too few of our universities are able, for example, to offer engineering, and so we're not producing the numbers that we need. We should improve resourcing in those professional fields so that we begin to get the numbers and quality of skills that we require. It was also said that the ANC should lead society to think more positively about ourselves and our innovation capabilities, and publicize advances that have been made by South African scientists and innovators. A lot of the comrades in the Commission were amazed that each year South African scientists win the Kwame Nkrumah African Union Science and Innovation Award, and we don't know about that. We don't talk about it sufficiently. We're not aware, for example, of the work that is being done in a range of technology sectors by South African technologists and innovators. A further point that was agreed on is that we must have free Wi-Fi, and particular attention must be given to creating Wi-Fi hotspots in rural areas, that we're seeing a widening gap between provision in the rural communities as compared to what's happening in a number of towns and metros with respect to availability of Wi-Fi. It was said science literacy programs should include a focus on village and township communities, that as we advance science and technology, townships, villages mustn't be left at the margins. They must be very much a part of the advances that we see. Then it was said we should have all sectors accounting on progress being made in using science, technology, and innovation. I think this is very important, that we would want to go to a department that you may think wouldn't use science, technology, and innovation, and ask them, what evidence are you utilizing to develop policy? What use are you making of technology? And what is the place of innovation in your department or your particular sector? Greater work with institutions such as the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research was seen as important in this particular area. We also agreed that we should invest in the digital economy, as it has the potential to create new jobs in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, as spoken of by many, many institutions. It was felt that we should accelerate the initiatives directed at beneficiating or value addition to minerals in South Africa. And we were reminded that we must prioritize learners with disability for science and technology training and for access to new technologies. We tend to talk about technology, but without accounting for the need to address persons with disabilities. On basic education, the following were recommended: that the basic education sector, working closely with higher education training and treasury, must, by the end of this term, that is by 2019, ensure that there is a comprehensive review of the education and training system in order to ensure that this system is able to respond to the demands and imperatives of radical socioeconomic transformation and the fourth industrial revolution through preparing young people for life, for higher education and training programs, for technical, vocational, and occupational skills, and broadly for the world of work and enterprise. We also said that having achieved commendable progress relating to access, redress, and equity, the African National Congress must further ensure that there is strategic alignment and repositioning of the basic education sector by prioritizing strategies and policies that target the provision of quality teaching and learning outcomes, at enhancing the skills and competencies of educators, at ensuring in particular that the school management team, especially including the school principal, deputy principal, subject heads, are actually teams that enhance accountability to ensure the achievement of quality outcomes and efficiency in the basic education sector. So we must see a core team that we regard as leaders that we can hold accountable for quality education outcomes in all the schools throughout the country. Then it was agreed that all departments working in the space of ICT should ensure implementation of the Education Pakisa decisions about ensuring pervasive presence of ICT within the education sector. We also proposed that the ANC should take a much bigger responsibility of leading society in protecting public facilities such as schools, libraries, colleges, universities, hospitals, and clinics. So our branches should take a lead in ensuring that such public facilities, and indeed all public facilities, are protected and regarded as the repository of the community. We agreed that the ANC must direct government and its relevant clusters to work together in developing strategic programs and education interventions geared toward young people who are not in employment, in education and training, that group referred to often as NEETs, that we should have programs that address their particular needs and that they become active participants and beneficiaries of radical socioeconomic transformation programs in their broader sense, and of course become part of a changing world and the opportunities offered by the technological revolution, which is being called the fourth industrial revolution. We also said the ANC must ensure that there's a systematic relocation of early childhood development and preschool programs from the Department of Social Development to the Department of Basic Education, with a view to achieving the goals of universal quality access to ECD as envisioned in Vision 2030 of the National Development Plan. The ANC has to deal decisively, conference said, with challenges of inequity in the rural and urban school setting and ensure that there is adequate resourcing of village and township schools through the provision of quality, efficient, innovative, and inclusive education and training programs and solutions. Incentives should be developed through which teachers can be attracted and retained in rural and farm communities, and these should be implemented and monitored by the education sector. We agreed that the ANC and its alliance partners should maintain and sustain good labor relations within the education sector in order to minimize conflict, which can lead to unrest, loss of teaching and learning time, and potential damage to property and educational resources. We agreed the ANC must produce a legislative framework to guide in addressing executive management and administrative lapses in the system which result in interventions in terms of Section 100 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Yeah, the concern was that we do intervene in terms of Section 100, but where lapses are identified, sanctions don't seem to follow. So it was felt this should be included in legislation which specifies how we would address those areas or provinces in which we implement the Section 100 provision of executive or administrative oversight. It was also agreed that we must have greater collaboration between arts and culture as well as sports and recreation to develop programs that enhance young people's access to these areas and that really lift out the democratic values of Ubuntu and social cohesion within South African schools and among learners in all our education institutions. On higher education and training, we affirmed that education remains an apex priority of government's pro-poor policies and that it's a central pillar of our fight against the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, and that we have to accelerate inclusive access to higher education and training because not doing so threatens our ability to achieve the visions outlined in the National Development Plan. We said the ANC should continue to strengthen measures which will improve access to higher education and the goal of achieving free higher education for the poor and the missing middle. This should not be limited to the role that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme would play, but should also include the role of the private sector in providing support in this regard. In line with resolutions previously adopted at the 52nd and 53rd conferences of the African National Congress, we agreed that the government should accelerate the implementation of a new financial support model to ensure that academically capable, poor, working class, and middle strata students are supported to access higher education and receive fully subsidized free higher education and training by 2018, subject to the availability of funds. We spoke that the realignment of the SETA landscape should continue to receive attention from the Department of Higher Education and Training, and that we should expand technical and vocational education and training, as well as implement the programs on community colleges outlined in this post-school education and training white paper. We said we should encourage partnerships between TVET institutions and the industry as well as the workplace, because we don't see a very strong link between these institutions and industry, and we really need to have it if young people are to complete their vocational training programs and achieve the requisite qualifications. We said the higher education and training must work with the Human Settlements Department to ensure that increased student accommodation is provided, and that in providing housing, the Human Settlements Department should also consider student accommodation as part of the areas it needs to make resources available for. The legislation on institutional autonomy and increased administrative oversight by the Higher Education Department was supported by our commissions, and it was felt by conference that we must begin to see this legislation enforced and having an effect in the sector. We felt the ANC needs to be a thought leader on the broader ideological and political issues of decolonization, which are encompassed in our various documents on people's education for people's power, and that we need to articulate these views much more than we're doing up to this time. And of course, for us, free higher education for the poor includes subsidizing cost of study, which includes tuition fees, accommodation, meals, provision for transport, and essential study materials or learning resources. And all of this was seen as a package that should be provided. It was felt no poor or working class student should be partially funded, and that resources should be sought to ensure that they receive full funding supports. We also said all young people receiving grants from the state as well as loans of any kind should receive additional academic and psychosocial support in order to increase the throughput and success through universities, because we are worried about the levels of dropout that we're seeing from higher education. On health, we said the implementation of the NHI remains a priority of government. We must ensure that speedy steps are taken to ensure the development of the legislative framework on the NHI, and that in implementing the NHI, specific emphasis must be given to primary health care as the first and most important port of call. As you know, NHI will succeed by the degree to which it addresses prevention rather than treatment, and thus primary health care is extremely important to successful implementation of the national health insurance. We should pay particular attention to 4 key issues that cause challenges in a public health system. Firstly, human resources should be adequate and properly trained. We should have public procurement and supply chain systems that are efficient, fair, and transparent. We should have effective financial management. And fourthly, infrastructure maintenance must be attended to. We also agreed that the new medical school in Limpopo should be supported in terms of financial and human resources and helped to succeed. That the provincial, district, and local structures of traditional health practitioners must be supported and strengthened, including with a prioritization of research into traditional health remedies in liaison with university research, health sciences faculties. The ANC must ensure that all structures of government provide requisite amenities in communities which will encourage healthy lifestyles and improve the quality of health of all the people of our country. We supported the proposal as conference by the health sector to use the money allocated for tax rebates to individuals utilizing medical aid funds to be redirected to fund the NHI. We were told that these tax rebates that are paid out annually equate to around 22 billion rand. And we thought this would give a very important catalyst to the health sector as we seek to implement the national health insurance. We also said litigation and medico-legal hazards must be decreased through improving clinical health care, introducing mediation where there are disputes, and really reducing the use of legal remedies where we have disputes and failures within the health sector. We should note, finally, that these recommendations will be submitted to branches and all structures of the ANC for further discussions from now on to just before the 54th National Conference in December this year. We will have engagements with a broad range of stakeholders on these recommendations in order to refine proposals and resolutions and arrive at conference with a broadly agreed set of perspectives that would advance our goals. We believe that our members, supporters, and generally the broader community will embrace the spirit of constructive deliberation and enthusiasm which characterized discussions at the 5th ANC National Policy Conference, and that they will play a role in assisting us to refine our recommendations. We believe these reflect broad support for what we intend to do, but are also well in line with the aspirations of the people of South Africa on education, health, science, technology, and innovation. Thank you very much, Comrade Susan.